So typically in a stick-built roof system, you'll have horizontal runs either with a top of a wall plate that's in the wall below, or possibly with a some kind of bracing like a rat run. And what we're going to do here is we're going to plumb up our gable end so that it is perfectly plumb or vertical with our wall plate. And then we'll use a diagonal brace to hold it in place.
We'll use our level to plumb up from the plate to the top of the ridge. When we're confident it's plumb, we screw off the bracing.
When you're calculating the length of your diagonal brace, you want to measure the height of this point here, which would be roughly 14 3/4 inches. Okay, and assuming you're cutting 45-degree angles on either end of this, you'll end up with a equal distance height and run, 14 3/4, 14 3/4. And we can then calculate the same way we calculate a 12-12 pitch roof, for example. It's simply a 45-degree angle with a rise of 14 3/4 and a run of 14 3/4, and then we can calculate the diagonal distance. So to calculate our diagonal, we type in our 14-inch 3/4 run, 14-inch 3/4 rise, and then hit the diagonal button. And that gives us the long point to long point length of our brace 2x4, 20 7/8.
Your diagonal length distance will probably be different since you'll have a different pitch of roof, so you'll need to calculate the rise and run with your appropriate numbers. Don't assume that yours will be the same as mine.
We're also going to install rake studs on the gable end, and I'm going to lay out the position of my rake studs. And I'm going to put these at 16 inches on center from the outside in. So hooking my tape on that wall plate, my 16 is the center of my stud, and I'm going to install the stud this way. Okay, so my thickness is 1.5 inches. Half of that is 3/4, so I'll pull back 3/4 of an inch, and then mark the side that my stud will go on. My stud will sit like so, and I'll need to cut a beveled cross cut to match the slope of my roof. So to find the length of my rake stud, I'm simply going to take my level and I'm going to mark a plumb line up on the face of my gable rafter. Okay, so there is a plumb line, and I will measure the short point. In this case, it's 5 3/4 inches to the short point of my rake stud. The opposite side should be identical since it's the same distance from the outside wall plate. So 5 3/4 is the short point. I'll mark a line straight across my stud. Remember, that is my short point, so my bevel is going to go up, and this side will be longer. And if I use my speed square, I can simply match the pitch that I'm using. In this case, it's a 7/12 pitch, so I can simply slide my, as if I were laying out a rafter, a common rafter. That angle will match the bevel of my rake stud. So that is what I'll be cutting.
You can refer to the Rake Wall Lab for how to cut a beveled crosscut on a gable end stud. Here I have both gable end studs cut and placed in position.
So some things to keep in mind about your roof system is that the ridge should be straight. On longer runs or longer ridges, it's a good idea to use a string line to string between the two gable rafters. So here's our string line lined up with one face of our ridge. This piece of wood actually isn't the straightest piece of wood, so as we set our rafters, we do need to force it so that it is straight. We also want to verify that all of our height above plates should match, in this case 2 inches. That of course is critical when you're laying out your rafters, that they all match that distance. Typically when we lay out our rafters, we make a template with our first rafter layout like we have in our practice layout labs. And then when we use that first one as a pattern for the subsequent rafters, we always want to line up the top edge of each rafter and mark the bottom. If the wood varies at all a little bit, you want to take that out of the bottom side so that all the top edges of the rafters are the same. So the last thing we're going to check on our roof is that our top edges of all of our rafters are in plane. I have a long straight edge here, my level, and I should be tight on every rafter to the bottom of my straight edge. Okay, we allow up to 1/8 of an inch of variance because sometimes our lumber isn't straight, and it should be that way the entire way down.
Your Unit 1 Lab 4 Gable Roof Lab is now complete. Please show it to your instructor for grading. Please also provide your calculations that you use to determine your rafter lengths.